Week 10 DFS Occupy Fantasy Podcast. It's Walid. I'm back. More importantly, I'm here with Brian, Mr. Second Place, Mr. Couldn't Get the Job Done, Mr. Mike Evans getting tackled at the 1 yard line. I'm throwing salt in the wound. Whew.
Man,
how you feeling?
Feeling good now that it's processed after a couple of days. But yeah, I was more pissed than I should have been on Sunday, considering the outcome. But
there's a dude that just won $100,000, and he's talking about how if Mike Evans wanted to score, he should have scored.
Dude, he should have. Like, I understand that he's playing a very important game, and if he could have scored, he probably would have. But to me, it didn't look like he tried very hard to score.
I feel like he didn't know what was at stake. Like,
he didn't.
He just thought it was a football game. He didn't know how much money was on the line. But hey man, congrats, dude. I'm fucking stoked for you. I know it's tough when that payout difference from first and second is so massive.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of glad because FanDuel reduced the prize pool this week, and so the previous 8 weeks, first place had been $1 million, second place $100K. So if that had been a $900,000 non-touchdown, the stinging would have still been here. So
it's not as bad as the Chris Davis of 2014.
No, that feeling has long surpassed, and I don't even think I'm allowed to be mad about it at this point anymore.
So either. Well, let's try to repeat your fortunes and bless our audience here. Talk about this week's slate. It is going to be fun. As always, we start with the betting odds, the largest favorites, the largest implied totals. The Saints are 13-point favorites against the Atlanta Falcons, who have been despicable this year. They're coming off a bye week, which makes it even crazier. And I mean, both teams are coming off a bye week, but still, like, the Falcons have been disgusting this year. The Ravens, 10-point favorites against the Bengals. Bengals, we know what they are. They're trash. And then the Colts, 10.5-point favorites against the Dolphins, who are saying, hey, don't put us in the same box as the Bengals because we know how to win football games.
Yeah, even with that mentality that they have, these three teams that are favorites here, I think, are going to take up a lot of ownership in DFS. A lot of people are going to look to these guys, and in low risk contests, especially, people are going to try to get as many players from these three teams as they can: the Saints, the Ravens, and the Colts. And then kind of secondarily look at the totals as well. Whereas Atlanta, New Orleans has the highest total right now as of Wednesday evening, 51.5 points. It's no surprise that we see Alvin Kamara as a top option, Drew Brees as a high-owned option, Michael Thomas, who's the only player with 15 PPR points in every game he's played this season. Saints are going to be, I think, staples of a lot of people's lineups.
Mm-hmm. And another game that's going to be I think, consensus game to stack, the Cardinals versus the Buccaneers. Tied for the highest implied total with 51.5 points. The defenses are probably going to stay at home.
Yeah, so actually, we talk about it every week. I said I'm going to keep stacking Arizona until I'm bankrupt. Fortunately, I just hit, so now I can stack Arizona as many times as I want. I'm going back to the well. I'm going to be stacking them this week too, especially with my guy Mike Evans in this game stack.
What a matchup! I mean, is this not the game to stack? It's as far as like the consensus, people that are stacking games. Do you see this being like an overwhelming GPP game to target?
It'll be right up there with the Falcons and the Saints, but because this spread is so much closer in Arizona, Tampa Bay, their team total is a little bit closer together. But to me, it looks like a kind of an arbitrage opportunity because Mike Evans, Chris Godwin are the two highest projected receivers. I know Ronald Jones is going to carry some ownership as well. Winston, number 2 projected ownership. I don't see Kyler Murray. I don't see Christian Kirk. I don't see David Johnson if he plays. I don't see Larry Fitzgerald. So the Arizona side, I think, will go under-owned compared to what Tampa Bay's happening.
And 48.5 points for the Chiefs and Titans. But the Chiefs are only 3.5 point favorites, even though Mahomes is expected to return. Are you reading between the lines and maybe not so fast, my friend?
Yeah, because this game's still not up everywhere in the betting markets. A few places have it. A couple of the sharper ones don't yet. But I'd be surprised if Mahomes doesn't play. But like you, I'm kind of curious about that spread. I know they're on the road here. but still 3.5 points against Tennessee is a pretty short line.
Totally. And the Panthers-Packers, 47 points.
Yeah, that could be a game, as we talk in our sneaky stacks, that could be a game that goes under the radar. But again, there's not too many high totals this week with the two 51.5 point totals and a pretty significant drop down to Kansas City, Tennessee, and Carolina, Green Bay. So we'll see. It's going to be an interesting week from a high risk perspective.
So highest owned players this week as far as what we're expecting. No shocker, Lamar Jackson after another impressive performance. He gets the Bungles. Jameis Winston, given this Cardinals secondary who thought they'd be this bad even with Patrick Peterson coming back. We did, but I mean that's going to be another quarterback that's pretty popular, and Drew Brees healthy now coming off a bye week and a very favorable matchup. Which one of these guys do you think is going to give you any leverage? Because they all seem like they'll be the three most popular guys.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think Brees has the least, just based on likely projected volume if they're double-digit favorites. Lamar, we know what he can do. Probably Jameis, I think. Huge upside in that game stack. I think just the potential shootout of that game gives him the highest upside of the group. Plus the narrow target funnels with Evans and Godwin. You don't have to stack really anyone else from that team. So right. I think that would be it for me.
I think so too. Just the last point you made, the narrow kind of target share with those two guys versus for someone like Lamar Jackson. I mean, you're more so relying on his legs, and who knows, one of like 4, 5, 6 guys to deliver big. At running back, Christian McCaffrey, his price has just gone up since we started recording this podcast.
Yeah, it's gone up every second. If you don't get him into your lineups now, it's going to go up even further.
You're fucked. You're already screwed. So
10,500, Walid. What do you I haven't talked to you in a couple of weeks since he's been doing this. What he's been doing, his price has been doing what it's doing. But what are your thoughts at that kind of price tag?
It's insane because last week was I think the first time where I felt a little uneasy because the week before he was I think 9,200, right? And that's totally fair game. And then he skyrockets 1.3K, and that's when I'm like, all right, that's getting a little excessive, right? And what do you know? He drops 40 points and has the second or third best game of the season. He's having an unreal year. He is establishing the run. He is bringing running the ball back to football. And honestly, every team right now should be looking to get a top 5 pick and drafting a running back.
That's the takeaway we should have here. It's exactly what should be happening. I hope NFL teams are listening to this. So Dave Gettleman, draft another one. Saquon, put them both on the field at the same time. Get them both 12 carries for 28 yards. Do what you can.
But no, it's like a perfect storm of extremely high talent, right? A lot of like work geared towards him, given I think without Cam Newton there. They're just gonna rely more on Christian McCaffrey in the running game. He's getting 24, 22, 27, 24 carry games where I don't know if he would be getting that, and then he continues to be a stud in the passing game. He's scored I think double digit. He's scored multiple touchdowns in, if I'm not mistaken, like 5 games this year. So It's like, as Michael Jordan once said, the ceiling is the roof.
No wiser words have been spoken. So there you go. And McCaffrey, the thing is, last week we had Jalen Samuels. We were able to fit him in pretty easily. Mm-hmm. If we don't get that value this week, it may be tougher. So I'm really curious to see where his ownership ends up.
And that's the big thing, right? With Jalen Samuels being such a chalk play at 4,000 and some chips, like that made life a lot easier. We're not going to get that again this week. But other studs are in the picture that aren't going to cost you as much, aka Alvin Kamara and Saquon Barkley.
Yep, exactly right. You can drop down to them. They're in pretty good matchups. Kamara obviously is a huge favorite. Barkley against the Jets. And even Marlon Mack against the Dolphins. This is a perfect get-right game for him. He's going to get a ton of carries. He'll be pretty popular.
Sorry. It's just mind-blowing to think that if you told me before the season started that Christian Week 10 would be $2,300 more than Alvin Kamara, And, I'd be like, oh, wow, Alvin Kamara must have lost a leg.
Well, all of our preseason talk about which guy to draft in the top 4. Unfortunately, we didn't have the foresight of seeing the Week 10 DraftKings pricing.
No, yeah, that would be something good to know going into next season. But no, as you were saying, both guys are going to be pretty popular.
Yeah, these 4 guys that we mentioned, McCaffrey, Barkley, Kamara, Mack, are going to carry most of the ownership. And as we preach every week, and whatever content you listen to, don't get cute at running back. Look at my $100,000 win. Had McCaffrey, who was 30% owned, had Samuels, who was 40% owned. And you don't need to get cute. Those guys have projected volume, and they're likely going to hit on that volume. We have the entire week to come up with information and reasons why to play running backs, and they're the most consistent position. So just play these 4 guys, and you'll probably be fine.
No, exactly, because at the end of the day, if one of these guys gets 25 touches, we know what they're going to do. Yep. Meanwhile, one of these expensive receivers gets 10 targets, like we don't know what they're going to do.
Right.
Always play it safe. In even a high risk contest, find that leverage elsewhere.
Yep. Yeah, 100% right.
Now at wide receiver, the Bucks are going to be popular. Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. Should I be worried as a follower of Godwinism that Mike Evans is leading us astray?
Hey, you know how this goes. They go back and forth. This is the Godwin week. You should know that as well as anyone, as one of the leaders of Godwinism. So
it's testing our faith, but we remain strong.
Yeah, you got to listen to the signs, man. You know what Godwin. We can't stray too far, and this is going to be the week. I don't know, just for reasons we don't know, but he'll probably outscore Mike Evans by a lot this week. I have no idea why, but he probably will.
And they both could very well pop off too. So maybe they finally split the workload. Pascal. Mr. Pascal should be pretty popular.
Yeah, T.Y.'s out again. Paris Campbell broke his hand. They literally have no one talented to throw the ball to. Pascal, not that I like this metric, but he's averaging, I think, one of the top 5 yards per target number this year. A lot of times that just means you're not getting a lot of targets and you have one fluke play. But he looked good with the volume last week, and now against a matchup with the Dolphins, who don't have Xavier Howard anymore. So Pascal looks like a pretty good chalk play, I think, especially in low risk contests.
Michael Thomas, he's probably been the most consistent receiver in the league.
He has. If you're going to pay up for a receiver in low risk, he's got to be the guy for me.
And Devontae Adams, who returned from a turf toe injury last week. I'm sure he's kind of hungry to have, and the Packers are hungry for all that loss to kind of get this passing game back on track.
Yeah, I was surprised that they threw him right back into the mix. But actually, one of our writers, Tyler, pointed out to me, he's like, they're in contention. They're a good team, and they don't really need him. So why would they rush him back if he's not 100%? So clearly he's 100%, and he played most of the snaps last week. Got 11 targets. Air yard data shows he was getting targeted downfield, and he should have had a massive game last week. He's actually on our list of underperforming receivers, so he should be in line for a pretty big workload in this matchup.
All right, popular tight ends. We have Amari Hooper.
Has he scored more than Amari this year? It feels like he has. He scores a touchdown every fucking game.
I mean, it's crazy because I remember I streamed this guy like 3 years ago, his rookie year, against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is the dumbest. I don't know why my brain has space to remember this stuff, but it was Austin Hooper. It was the Bucs versus the Falcons, lame Thursday night game. Peyton Barber fumbled on the first drive.
Sounds about right.
And I started Austin Hooper. I'm like, I'm going to stream this kid because he's the starting guy. His snap counts are high. He's been getting targets, and he scored a touchdown. And in my eyes, I was like, all right, there you go. His job's done. I'll probably never hear of this kid again.
Wrong.
Sure enough, fast forward a few years later, and he's turning into a premier tight end in this league.
Yeah, and now with even Sanu gone, even more targets opened up for him. So
he's good. That's the crazy thing is he's actually really good.
Yeah, and the thing is, whether they're winning or they're likely to lose by double digits, he's getting a ton of garbage points too. So regardless of how the game script goes, there's a reason why he's the highest projected owned tight end.
Travis Kelce.
Hopefully Mahomes is back. He's going to be high owned every week, 15% projected in our model. And then Doyle also right behind him. Dolphins matchup. Pretty easy to see why these guys are projected highly.
100%. Defense slash special teams, the Bears, the Browns, and the Colts, for obvious reasons, should all be pretty popular.
Yeah, I think pricing for the Browns, the Bears, we know about their defense. Colts matchup with Miami. I'll be curious. I like to get kind of crazy here in defense and see which defense have good pressure percentages. Looking at betting line movements in the markets, that drives a lot of my decisions, and we normally don't have that this early in the week. So definitely check back with our other content later in the week to see who we think we could possibly get some leverage on these three teams.
Let's talk sneaky stacks. I mean, we know where the heat's at, right? Everyone knows about Arizona, Tampa Bay. Everyone knows about New Orleans and Atlanta. Where can you get some leverage in high-risk contests?
I do want to say that, that scares people away a lot, that those stacks will be popular. But, again, just bringing it back, look at my lineup this past weekend. Seattle, Tampa Bay was the highest owned stack. I had 7 of my 9 guys were 10% projected or higher, or 10% actual ownership or higher. Lockett, Metcalf, Evans, Russ were all 15% or higher, plus those 2 running backs. I had 2 guys that were sub 5% that differentiated for me. So, especially if you're playing just a couple of lineups, even if you get up to 20, like there's really not a reason to get away from those stacks unless something really stands out.
No, 100%, right? Because like you said, in the grand scheme of things, like you're still creating a lineup that no one else has, and
right.
As long as you find your spots, but it's still good to, if you're creating a handful of lineups, not put your eggs in just one basket. And I know Carolina and Green Bay is something you had a gut feeling about, just given, and we'll talk about this in a second, underperforming receivers on both sides that can deliver. What are your thoughts on that game?
Yeah, I mean, what better way to take advantage of guys who are projected to blow up based on recent opportunity than guys playing the same game and get that added correlation of receiver, opposing receiver. DJ Moore, Curtis Samuel, and Devontae Adams all in this game have underperformed their opportunity recently. They've been getting a lot of targets. It hasn't necessarily translated into the box scores. So if you can get those 3 guys and stack them with either Rodgers or Kyle Allen, I mean, you have all kinds of data and upside and correlation on your side.
I feel like Curtis Samuel is like 6 accurate passes away from being like a top 5 receiver.
Dude, no, that's not an exaggeration. He actually is. Like, he's getting targeted downfield a lot. If he catches 3 of those, like he's in discussion for that.
And the Chiefs and Titans, if Mahomes returns, right, because if Matt Moore is there, that obviously deflates kind of this upside.
Yeah, definitely. Tyreek, Sammy Watkins, even Kelsey. Tennessee, if this game turns into a shootout, they're forced to throw more. We got to like Corey Davis and A.J. Brown. So I could definitely see that, especially at a 48.5 point total, right below that top tier, could certainly go overlooked.
And one more game I'll throw out there, just because, like, A, the over and under total was very low, but B, I feel like you can zero in on the high upside plays, the Rams and the Steelers.
That's true. You definitely can. And I think a lot of people definitely overlook that factor. Chris actually does a great job of highlighting that in the stack section of the Daily Plug on OccupyFantasy.com, where even though the game itself might not be the highest scoring, our goal is to find guys. I mean, we talked to Jack during his win in January. Like, his goal is to find guys who can score 25 points. If you have offenses where we know who's getting the ball, we know guys can score 25 points. I mean, Rams and Steelers kind of make sense. We have Woods and Cooper Kupp, maybe Todd Gurley, Juju, and then whoever's starting at running back. So I like that call.
Yeah, I mean, because at the end of the day, it could be a 20. The projection is 23-20, but if you get 2-3 guys that once again get you 20 to 25 points, then you're right on par for having a good finish.
Especially on DraftKings, because the bonuses in the PPR really can add to those stacks.
Yeah.
FanDuel, you need a lot of touchdowns, and some of those lower total games can't get there. But with those bonus and PPR scoring, that's where you can get a little crazy with some of your stacks.
So I know you covered a few of them, but any other underperforming receivers that you think are on the verge of a sexual eruption?
Stick to your day job, Lead. Yeah, some guys this week. I want to get your thoughts. guys who stand out to me, from a data perspective. Robbie Anderson, Keenan Allen, who plays Thursday night, so you can probably imagine what the Thursday daily plug is going to look like. Curtis Samuel, we mentioned. Auden Tate, Allen Robinson, Mark Andrews, the rare tight end. Remember, both tight ends that were on this list last week, Zach Ertz, Noah Fant, were the top 2 performing tight ends on the week. DJ Moore from that Carolina game. And then guys who just missed the cut, Julio, Devontae Adams, both Jacksonville receivers, DJ Chark and Chris Conley, and then Christian Kirk from that Arizona-Tampa Bay game.
Ooh, I like a lot of these guys, right? I like Christian Kirk a lot. DJ Chark, all these guys that you literally named, Julio, Devontae, the Panthers receivers, they all are in a spot where they can finish, in my eyes, this week finish like as top 3 receivers. So, and this is kind of where the mix and match comes in, right? If you're building multiple GPP lineups, like you know who your running backs are, and kind of rotate around these guys. Yep. I think they're all like prime for the picking. Beyond, like, if you didn't tell me that they were underperforming relative to air yards and targets, I would still look at these guys as potential like blow up guys.
Absolutely. Having some of the good matchups helps too. In some people's eyes, a lot of people, they find it tough to click that button to put them in the lineup if they've had 3 points, 4 points, 3 points the last 3 weeks. But if they're playing Tampa Bay, then it's like, okay, at least they have a good matchup. So, that can ease the burden for some people. But these guys, you play them regardless of matchup. I say it every week. These are primarily the guys I'm most exposed to. Preston Williams, Noah Fant were on this list last week. There were 2 guys in my winning lineup outside the stack. So if you just stack games with receivers and then add these guys to your pool, you're in pretty good shape for high-risk contests.
And I like how you always say, like, if you feel good about what your GPP lineup looks like, you're not doing it right.
Yeah, do you think I felt great about putting Noah Fant into my lineup? No, of course not. But you got to look at what the numbers say.
There you go. So that wraps it up here for us. You know where to find us, at Occupied Fantasy. Brian, any closing thoughts before we head into week number 10?
I don't think so. Let's just keep grinding. Lots more content to come out. Daily plug, OccupyFantasy.com. Occupy Models up and running for week 10. Twitch stream Saturday night. And then, of course, wherever you're listening to this, whether it's in your podcast apps or on YouTube, be sure to subscribe so you get the latest episodes.
Click, and write us a review, man. You can be like, hey, that guy Walid, like, the podcast was great when he was gone, and it went downhill as soon as he came up. Like, we'll take it.
Please leave that comment if you feel it's true.
All right, everyone. Good luck this week, and we'll see you soon.